Alexandra Eala's dream run.
I always say like so much has changed, but nothing's changed.
Sabalenka appeared visibly unsettled after Alexandra Eala received a massive and completely unexpected honor. Something shifted inside the women's tennis world. A young underdog, Alexandra Eala, was suddenly thrust into the spotlight, and the shock rippled through the sport's established hierarchy. At the very top, Aryna Sabalenka didn't mask her discomfort. No one anticipated this moment, but when Eala's name appeared and the crowd erupted, Sabalenka's silence spoke louder than the applause itself. Long before the world recognized her name, Alexandra Eala moved quietly through the tennis circuit.
My goal is to be able to integrate myself into the WTA circuit more and to be able to handle myself better on court.
Alexandra Eala.
Immediately, this was not ordinary talent. There was something different about her, something rare. The 2025 season didn't open with fireworks for Eala. It began with grind, late nights, unseen practice sessions, losses that hit harder than fans ever noticed. There were moments when she quietly questioned whether she truly belonged on this stage. Still, every time she walked off court, she carried herself like someone certain her moment was coming. And then, almost without warning, it arrived. First came the upset wins matches that made commentators double-check the scoreboard. Then came tournament runs that forced fans to lean in, replay highlights, and ask the same question: who is this girl? But what truly separated Eala wasn't only her game. It was the presence she brought with her. She wasn't dramatic. She didn't seek attention. And because of that, attention found her anyway. That's where the tension started. Every era of women's tennis has its quiet disruptors, players who emerge unexpectedly and unsettle the giants without saying a word. Alexandra Eala was becoming exactly that. The day began like any other, media moving through the grounds, practice courts active, players warming up, fans settling into their seats. But beneath the routine, something felt off. A quiet tension hung in the air, the kind that doesn't make noise, yet still makes people look around. The announcement was set for noon. No one knew what it was. The email sent to players was brief. A special recognition will be presented today. No name, no category, no clues. Most assumed it would go to a veteran, perhaps a former champion, maybe someone nearing retirement. No one imagined a newcomer. Certainly not a teenager. Not someone who hadn't even been seated at most events just a year earlier. Then the ceremony screen flickered. The spotlight shifted. And in that moment, the tennis world seemed to hold its breath. The recipient of the International Rising Legacy honor is Alexandra Eala. The room froze, gasps followed, whispers spread, faces locked in disbelief as reporters typed furiously. Then the camera cut straight to Sabalenka. Her reaction lasted barely a second, almost imperceptible, but it said everything. Her jaw tightened, brows twitched, arms folded. This wasn't expected. She wasn't prepared, and she wasn't pleased. Because this wasn't just an award, it was symbolism, a message, a declaration that the sport was ready to elevate a new figure, one not born from the usual tennis dynasties, one not carefully molded by the system. One whose rise was built on grit and international pride. A player whose emergence challenged the very hierarchy Sabalenka sat atop. As Eala walked toward the stage, her steps were slow, uncertain. Her eyes reflected shock mixed with humility. Then the crowd erupted real, emotional, thunderous applause. Commentators whispered among themselves, "She's so young. This is unexpected. This will rattle some egos." Eala stayed composed. She accepted the plaque, thanked her family, credited her team, her country, her supporters. But the moment that truly ignited social media came next. A reporter asked, "How does it feel to receive this recognition at such a young age?" Eala smiled slightly, took a breath, and delivered the line that became the day's headline. "I didn't expect it, but maybe the sport is changing." The words landed hard. Changing into what? And who was being replaced? It didn't matter that Eala spoke innocently. The world didn't hear innocence. The world heard provocation, and Sabalenka heard a threat. Within minutes, fan pages posted side-by-side images of Eala's smile and Sabalenka's reaction. Threads ignited. Debates exploded. Was Sabalenka insecure? Was Eala being elevated too quickly? Was the honor deserved? The stage was set. The tension was real. And what followed turned it into a full-blown storm. Because if awards are the spark, social media is the gasoline. As soon as Eala received the honor, hashtags began trending worldwide. Ceremony clips flooded Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Some fans celebrated. Others questioned it. Many turned it into a war of fandoms. But the loudest noise of all centered on one thing: the reactions surrounding Sabalenka. Someone slowed down the footage of Sabalenka's expression. Another account added dramatic music. Captions followed. Sabalenka is panicking. Didn't expect this. Eala just shook the queen. The narrative practically wrote itself. Even commentators debated whether Sabalenka felt threatened or merely confused. A former player tweeted, "Top athletes don't like surprises, especially when new stars rise too quickly." That single tweet went viral, racking up thousands of retweets and fueling even more speculation. Meanwhile, Eala tried to stay calm. She posted one message: simple, grateful, motivated. And yet even that sparked arguments. Fans wrote she deserves this. Future superstar.
Just 1, 2, 3, 2, 6, 7, 6.
Let her shine. Others fired back based on what? They're pushing her too fast. This is politics, not tennis. Amid the chaos stood Eala, a teenager who never asked for awards, never sought controversy, and never imagined her rise would ripple all the way to top players. The truth was simple. When a new star emerges, the established ones feel the heat, especially when that rising star is celebrated not only for her tennis, but for what she represents: youth, hope, diversity, and a break from tradition. As social media exploded, the tennis world began picking sides. Analysts debated. Was the honor unnecessary pressure on Eala, or a symbolic sign the sport was evolving? Then someone posted a screenshot of Sabalenka liking, then quickly unliking a cryptic post that read, "Not all honors are earned." Verification was impossible, but it didn't matter. The damage was done. Fans captured it, shared it, built narratives. Suddenly, Sabalenka wasn't just irritated, she was panicking. Maybe true, maybe exaggerated, maybe misread, but perception had become reality. What began as a celebration for Eala had morphed into a debate about merit, favoritism, insecurity, and shifting power. The award was no longer just an honor. It was a symbol of change, and change is always uncomfortable for those at the top. When tensions reach a boiling point, someone always speaks first. This time it was Sabalenka. At her next press conference, reporters circled her like sharks, hunting for quotes. She entered with her usual poise, but her eyes betrayed awareness of the storm surrounding her. A reporter asked the question everyone wanted answered. "What do you think of Alexandra Eala receiving the International Rising Legacy honor?" Sabalenka paused, long enough for silence to feel heavy. Then she forced a smile, the kind meant to mask discomfort but failing anyway. "It's surprising. I didn't expect that, but good for her. On paper, harmless." In tone, hesitation and tension spoke louder than words. Another reporter pressed, "Do you think the award was deserved?" This time, no smile. "Honors should reflect achievements. That's all I'll say." Those words hit harder than any tweet, any fan post, any shouting. Headlines exploded. Sabalenka throws shade at Eala's award. Sabalenka questions recognition. Honors should reflect achievements. The narrative had spun out of her control. Fans defending Sabalenka said she was honest. Fans defending Eala said she felt threatened. Analysts called it the first crack in the armor of tennis's emotional powerhouse. Through it all, Eala stayed silent. No clapbacks, no public statements, no arguments, just focus. And that silence spoke volumes. Calm, composed, unshaken, she trained and prepared for her next match. Meanwhile, tension spilled onto the practice courts. Sabalenka's swings were harder, fueled by frustration. Eala remained centered, steady, composed. Two players, two energies, one rising star, one established powerhouse, and the world watched. One player tried to maintain control, the other unknowingly was taking it. By now, this was no longer just an award, it had become psychological warfare. And everyone watching knew something bigger was coming. A showdown, a collision, a match that could turn this emotional battle into a physical one. The tour was waiting. Fans were waiting. Players were waiting. Because you can't have a rising star and a threatened champion occupying the same space without sparks flying, and those sparks were closer than anyone imagined. Awards don't happen in a vacuum. The International Rising Legacy honor exists to recognize a young athlete whose influence extends beyond trophies, hope, representation, inspiration, the spark of something bigger. Yet even the committee didn't anticipate choosing Eala. She wasn't the top junior, the highest ranked, or the most famous. But her story, raw, human, emotional, couldn't be ignored. A girl from a nation with no tennis legacy was suddenly shaking the tour with heart, grit, and authenticity. For the world, it was politics, hype, favoritism. But the truth? Eala had earned it in ways rankings cannot measure. Sabalenka, however, saw a different story. A threat to her spotlight, a shift in media attention, a rising star stealing headlines in her prime. Champions aren't afraid of losing matches, they fear losing relevance. And that fear often shows as anger, denial, or panic. Behind the scenes, insiders confirmed the committee chose Eala because she symbolized the future of global tennis growth, inspiration, a new direction for the sport. This wasn't about replacing Sabalenka or creating conflict. But conflict emerged anyway, because emotions rarely follow logic. And in that storm, Eala learned a lesson far too early. Rising stars don't always receive applause. Sometimes they trigger panic. Days passed, and the noise softened not because people forgot, but because controversy eventually transforms into curiosity. Questions emerged. What does this mean for Eala's future? Is her rivalry with Sabalenka real? Will this honor drive her or break her? Yet the most crucial question remained unspoken. Can she carry the weight that comes with being chosen? Eala never sought the spotlight. She never chased headlines. She never ignited the rivalry the world did. Sabalenka, meanwhile, faced a truth she hadn't expected. The greatest threat to a champion isn't defeat. It's the sudden rise of someone the world embraces even more. This saga, the honor, the panic, the statements, the emotions became more than a controversial moment. It became a mirror, reflecting champions' insecurities, the pressure on rising stars, and how narratives twist into battles. Yet beneath it all, one fact remained clear. The honor was only a symbol. The real story was Eala's rise. A rise so unexpected it shook the foundations of the WTA. A rise so powerful it rattled the top. A rise so emotional it left everyone asking, what happens next? Will Sabalenka fight back on court? Will Eala embrace her role as the new face of the sport? Will they collide in a match that becomes an instant classic? Or is this rivalry the start of a new era? This honor wasn't the conclusion. It was the spark, the opening chapter of a rivalry that could define the next decade of women's tennis. Sabalenka's reaction wasn't panic alone. It was a front-row view of change arriving, whether champions were ready or not. In a sport where legends fall and new stars rise overnight, Alexandra Eala's unexpected recognition didn't just shift attention, it shifted the balance of power.